بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
That sin and immorality would be widespread before the coming of the Imam. Atheism, flying in the face of God, denying the existence of God, will be open, and blasphemy will not even be considered blasphemy. People will either stop believing in God altogether or will change religion to such a degree to suit their own beliefs that it will not even be the original Islam. Large groups of individuals, including Muslims, will become like straws in the wind, where any caller who calls them to anything, they will believe in it. Today one calls them this way, they go this way. Tomorrow somebody calls them that way, they'll go that way. There will be no basis and criteria to identify what is haqq from what is batil, what is truth from what is falsehood. And this may be perhaps because of abandoning the Quran, or because of not continuing to maintain respect and acknowledging the ulama, whatever the reason might be. We know also from ahadith that before the coming of the Imam, the Muslims will be oppressed across the world, and many Muslim lands will be taken over by non-Muslims and by their enemies. They will either be overthrown or they will be ruled behind the scenes by others as puppets. In particular, the ahadith mention Palestine, and they talk of the fitna of Philistine, which is very interesting because these riwayats are 1200 and 1400 years old. But there is a repeated mention of Palestine as being under constant strife and being taken by the enemies of Islam. So the fitna of Philistine is mentioned again and again in riwayats. And the fact that Muslims will not only be killed by their enemies, but they will kill themselves, each other as well. There will be wars between the Turks and the Romans. There will be wars that will cover the Muslim nations. The Arabs will fight one another. One of the signs we mentioned last year as well was that in one riwayat it says that before the coming of the Mahdi, 2/3 of the human population will be wiped out. Now granted, this is not one of those definite signs like the voice that is heard in the heavens and the killing of Nafsul Zakiyah and the landslide at Baida and the Khurasani and Yamani and Sufyani. It isn't listed with those definite signs, but it is mentioned quite a bit in the books. So whether it happens like that or does not happen for any other reason, we don't know. But it is described very graphically by Imam Jaffer al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad. He says there will be a white death and a red death. The white death will kill 1/3 of the human population. The red death will kill 1/3 of the human population. When he was asked what this is, he said the white death will be death through hunger and drought and plague and disease and so on and so forth, through epidemics and pandemics and so on. The red death will be, so the white death in part will also be through natural disasters. And the red death will be through war and through fighting and through killing and through murder, the red symbolizing blood. And by the time nations have fought nations, there will be no superpower because everybody will be so weak. And in part, that war might also bring about disease. And this is a significant number of the human population. That in a population of 6-7 billion, we're talking of 2 billion people dying of disease or drought or hunger or natural disasters, and another 2 billion dying of war. So this would have to be war that is on a global scale, catastrophic, like a 3rd or a 4th world war. In one riwayat from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad. He says, the one who will rise will not rise except in a condition of severe fearfulness and turmoil and mischief and afflictions that will cover human beings. Before that there will be pestilence and there will be disease and there will be droughts, and the Arabs will fight amongst themselves and people will disagree and fight amongst themselves constantly. Their condition will change until people will pray for death to Allah day and night. They will see unbelievable changes in human beings, in how they behave and how they live, and how some of them will be eating others. Now, how some of them will eat others can be interpreted in two ways. Some have interpreted it symbolically, to say how some will take complete and shamelessly take advantage of others just to survive, the whole survival of the fittest theory. The other is a more literal interpretation to say that starvation will reach such a point that human beings will become cannibals in some places and will literally eat human flesh to survive. And there are riwayats, there is some narrations to say that before the Qa'im returns, there will be a year of severe hunger and a lot of fear amongst human beings. And this state of fear and hunger will continue until the voice that is heard on the 23rd night of Ramadan. There is also a discussion about another important sign in the books of Ahadith, and that is the sign of Dajjal. Now, with the discussion on Dajjal, it is very difficult to pinpoint when exactly this creature or person appears. If you compare this with Christian eschatology, you will find a striking resemblance with the concept of the Antichrist. Dajjal literally means one who deceives people. And in many books of Ahadith, he is called Masih Dajjal. Masih being the Messiah, as in the Christ. So he is the deceiving Christ, if you like. So from the Christian books, they tend to compare Jesus with the Antichrist to show an individual who comes forth and who appears to be working for the good of humanity and bringing peace, but he actually has another agenda, which is to enslave human beings and then finally to claim divinity for himself. If you compare this to Islamic texts, you will find a similar idea, that an individual comes forth who somehow takes control of the economy. The words in Ahadith literally say that he controls the food and the water, which actually would mean he controls the economy, and that he brings humanity to a point where they either have to choose to submit to him in order to get that food and water, in order to survive, or if they oppose him, then they are killed or they face starvation. What is not clear though is at what point this Dajjal appears. Some scholars have understood that he appears long before the coming of the Imam. We know from riwayat, some traditions say that human beings have never been tested the way they will be tested with the coming of Dajjal. Some riwayat say that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he used to seek refuge with Allah from Dajjal. He used to take out a tasbih and saying, A'udhu billahi min fitnati Dajjal. I seek refuge with Allah from the mischief of Dajjal. Now, some of the ulama, however, believe that his coming actually happens after the coming of the Mahdi alayhi salam. And the way they position this is, the reason why Dajjal's coming is so dangerous, and the reason why he's able to mislead so many people, is because of some of the miracles, if you like, he performs to convince people of his own divinity, that he is God. And these ulama who believe he comes after the Mahdi, believe so on the basis that when this knowledge spreads, these 27 letters of knowledge, if you like, this individual who is described simply as Dajjal, he has access to some of this knowledge that he misuses, and because of that he is able to mislead a large number of people. And we know from Ahadith that he is defeated and he is killed either by the Mahdi alayhi salam or by Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And there are some riwayat that even pinpoint the place exactly where he is killed and so on and so forth. So there is a complete discussion on Dajjal, and then other things that you hear of time and again is Yajuj and Majuj, which in the Bible are described as Gog and Magog and so on. And those are all again lengthy discussions.